The real deal. So this guy is going to hopefully join us later in the show to talk about why he believes the Earth is flat. And Jack, I did a lot of research. I don't want to call it research, but I did a lot of looking into this, right? I mean, research means, I don't know what that means, but it's not watching YouTube videos. That's not research. And I don't know that he could convince me.
David Weiss?
Yeah.
He just sent my phone call to voicemail.
He did?
He didn't even pick up the phone. He just sent it right to
maybe
voicemail.
He's having an argument with somebody. Maybe he's fighting with somebody.
Yeah, that's too bad.
All right, well, let's check our text messages. David, give us a call. He has our phone number, so he can call us. Dave,
Dave and I are going to be talking about the flat Earth with David Weiss, and we would love for people to go ahead and just call in if you have any questions, because I've got loads of questions about the flat Earth theory. Now, some people say Earth. I say Earth with an F. So if we're going to be talking about flat Earth, I would like it if everybody used the same nomenclature that I use. Again, it's not TH, it's F, the flat Earth theory. In preparation for this interview, I have watched 2 documentaries. I've read about all the people in the community. You could basically say at this point I'm an expert on the flat Earth. I have a PhD in flat Earth terminology at this point in time. So as soon as we get David Weiss on the line, you can actually check out David Weiss's podcast. It is called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. So he's hosted it for about 3 years, and he's got a YouTube channel as well that you can go and you can check out. His most recent video is The Earth Does Not Spin. And so we will be kind of covering that. He believes that NASA is 100% a fraud, and he makes short videos to give newbies enough FE, that's flat Earth, for those of you who don't know, enough information to be willing to watch a longer and more in-depth video. His YouTube channel is DITRH, and you can find him on YouTube. I'm actually curious, before we get to David, if anybody has any thoughts on the flat Earth right off the bat. If anybody thinks that this is a thing that we should even be.
Well, I'm sure lots of people think that we're going to be wasting our time, Jack. But this is I like to experiment with things like this, man. I think it's fun. I think Bigfoot stories are fun. I think flat Earth stories are fun. Aliens I think this is all fun. Mm-hmm. I categorize this under F for fun.
Right. They're just trying to convey that these are the things that exist in society. Now, if we're going to go around point fingers, Disney obviously is the one. Disney is a company that freaks me out more than any other company.
Why is that?
Because they own all the stories. For those of you who don't know, Marvel is under the Disney umbrella. Fox is under the Disney umbrella. It freaks me out. ABC is under the Disney umbrella. These kinds of things really weird me out. ESPN? That is a Disney subsidiary. Disney has kind of vacuumed up all of the narratives that you could have in mainstream media. They've kind of taken over that. Name a story, Dave Michaels. Disney owns it. Anything from your childhood that you can think of, Disney owns it. Those are the messages that are going into your brain, and it kind of freaks me out a little bit because one company, that massive company, has control over so much that they can determine what the discourse is and what kind of conversations people are having.
Can they really?
Oh yeah.
Then why did they have such racially offensive cartoons back in the days? And nobody really said anything, but if they're that powerful and they can change the narrative of the nation, then why they have to get rid of those kind of cartoons?
What do you mean?
Well, like the ones of the Siamese cats. And, the Japanese...
and the crows that were
the crows. And, the Japanese during World War II cartoons, the way they would draw them.
Well, Disney, I think, is smart enough as a company to kind of develop their material around what the social feeling is at any particular time. I think Disney, the people who work for Disney, are smart enough to know that this is kind of the trend that society is going in, and so they pick up on that. Disney offers a pretty simple narrative for people to kind of latch onto, especially when you look at things like the Marvel movies, which you and I might take in and we might just say, oh, well, it's just a regular superhero movie, but there's actually deep meaning in the context of these kinds of movies. It's not just something that I think is sugar-coated. It's not just something that you can kind of throw away. There's things within the Disney narrative which can be seen as being, I don't know, coercive, if you want to use that word. And so I think that maybe it would be a good idea for people to be a little bit more aware of what kind of narratives they're being taken into their brain.
Good advice, Jack. As always, you have great advice.
Thanks, Dave Michaels.
All right, looks like David Weiss is joining us now. This is our guest that we had regularly scheduled. We want to thank our callers for helping us keep the ball rolling while we were waiting for David to get connected. Sorry about that, David. David Weiss, thank you for joining us here on Flight 1080.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. I just want to correct a few things. You ready?
Sure.
My podcast is called The Flat Earth Podcast. You got the YouTube channel right. The video that's on the top of the channel is just an old video. Just follow my videos down. You'll learn a lot about the flat earth. And I was you guys 5 years ago. Flat earth is stupid. I could debunk it. And whoever's going to tell me about it is an idiot. And we're going to change that tonight.
All right, man. I'm looking forward to it, David, man. I'm excited about this. So explain to us your stance. And I invited you here because you are you believe that do you actually believe that the Earth is flat, or are you just proposing this as a possibility?
So the quote from a podcast called Crow 777 Radio is that belief is the enemy of knowing. You guys believe you live on a spinning ball, but you have no idea why you believe that. Flat earthers, flat earth researchers have researched flat earth and have researched the globe more than anyone that thinks flat earth is stupid. And we've come to the determination that the world is observably flat. It appears flat. Every test shows that it's flat. But one thing that we know for absolute positively, I'm losing my voice here, is that we don't live on a spinning ball flying through an infinite vacuum, and that could be proven scientifically.
Hey, David, are you a dome guy or are you a not dome guy?
You know, I'm going to answer that question, but I'm going to preface it by saying we don't have access to anything above the ground, anything above a commercial airline flight. So to say definitively that there's a dome up there isn't really a fair thing to say. Now, if you're a domer, most people believe that the dome comes down outside of the shoreline of Antarctica that surrounds the world ocean. But nobody has access to that either. You cannot explore Antarctica, and we can get into that if you want. But we live in a high-pressure system. They tell us that space is a vacuum. You can't have high pressure next to a vacuum without a physical barrier.
Wow. Okay. So how many theories? So I had never heard of the dome theory before last night. How many theories are there to this flat Earth idea?
Well, you know, we've been this round of flat Earth awakening, you know, which started about 5-6 years ago. We've only had 5 or 6 years and not much of a budget. NASA has, you know, $60 million a day going to them to fake the ball. And that's their sole purpose for being here, is to make you believe you can live on a ball. So in general, there's people that believe there's a dome, whether it's a physical dome or a energetic dome. That remains to be proven. And some people think that maybe the dome is much bigger and we have what you could call an infinite plane. Just to be clear, the Flat Earth Society is a disinformation site. And it's the #1 hit on Google when you start looking for flat Earth. It's to make you think flat Earth is stupid, and no flat Earth researcher believes anything on that site. They have a tiny bit of truth mixed with nonsense. So just if you find yourself on the Flat Earth Society, just know that you've been tricked by Google, and they've captured you, and they're mind controlling you.
You know, David, that was going to be my next question, because my understanding about the flat Earth ideology is that it's kind of two camps. You're either in kind of a Math Powers, I think that's the guy's name, camp, or you're in a Mark Sargent camp. And I want to know if you fall into one of those or not so much.
Well, so Math Powerland and Mark Sargent, Math. I haven't seen Math around for a while, but he thinks there's an infinite plane. It doesn't matter what I think. We can't go there. We can't prove it. There's plenty to prove right under our feet. For example, I'm just going to point out that Flat Earthers know the globe more than Globers are. You guys are Globers, no offense, you know, nothing to be embarrassed about, but kind of there is.
Right.
David, you're super catty, bro. You're like really catty, like a lady.
I'm just having a little fun.
I see. Okay.
All right. So I'm gonna, and don't think I'm picking on you because I was you. I'm just going to show you that you guys are religious. You're what we call ball zealots. Okay. That you believe in something you have no proof. Okay. Because you don't know anything about it. What's the circumference of the ball Earth?
24,000 miles.
Very good. See, not many people can answer that. How fast is it rotating?
11,000 miles an hour.
Nope, 1,000 miles per hour, but that's pretty fast.
Okay.
And how fast is it orbiting the sun?
92,000 miles per hour.
Nope, 66,000 miles per hour. But you're guessing much closer than other people do. And how fast is it chasing the sun?
Oh, you got me there. Chasing the sun?
The sun is flying at 660,000 miles per hour. So if you put all those motions together, we're spinning, orbiting, and chasing the sun, corkscrewing through the galaxy, and we're traveling millions of miles a day, billions of miles a year. But tonight, if you go out and look at the stars and mark where they are in the sky, and a year later to the day, you go out at the same time and look, every single star will be in the exact same place it was last year, 10 years ago, 50 years ago. Meanwhile, we're moving billions of miles, and all the stars are moving in all different directions, but they all remain the same. That is not possible in a heliocentric model where randomness, where nothing exploded and it became everything. That is only possible if the stars that we see are fixed above us in position and are rotating above the flat Earth.
Couldn't they be moving, at the similar relative speeds? Isn't that a thing that could take place?
So that would be a thing, but that's not what they tell us. They tell us that they're moving in all different directions. They're curving around the galaxy. There's zero parallax. It doesn't happen. It's to see, when you do time lapse of the North Star, which is the only star that doesn't move, it's above the alleged axial pole of the ball Earth. The stars make perfect circles. When the spinning of the Earth is making those circles is the least of the motions that the Earth is traveling. Remember, it's going much faster, sideways, forward, and none of those motions are tracked in the stars. It makes absolutely no sense. The only way you can recreate that is to have a spinning ceiling above a stationary floor.
Interesting. Okay, well, we're going to have to wait to pick it up on the other side of the break, David, because we are up against the clock. But this is getting good, dude. This is getting good. Wow. This is what I was hoping for, David. You're not going to answer
your toughest question.
You're not going to offend me, man. I'm ready.
I'm not going to. I'm trying not to.
Okay, good. No, you don't have to try, David. This is going to be great. We're going to have fun out here. We're speaking with David Weiss. Your calls are invited, 479-1080, 218-5726 with your text messages, dm@ksco.com with your emails. We are speaking with David Weiss tonight. David, thank you again for joining us here on Flight 1080. Are you there? Oh, no. Did he lose us? Did we lose him? This is horrible.
I talk on mute. I always do that. I love talking on mute. It's my favorite thing to do.
All right, David. Again, thank you for joining us here. And you know what? You don't have to worry about calling us rounders or globers. This is what it's all about. We're exchanging ideas, and we're going to have fun. That's what it's all about. That's why you're here. We're going to have fun listening to you and hear what you have to say.
All right. So just remember, I always when I first started, I say, I got the gotcha question. I had the gotcha question. I had it 50 times, and it never worked out. So come at me with your gotcha questions, and we'll try to answer it on the radio. Some of them are a little more involved, but I'll try to paint a picture that people can see why they're driving in their cars.
Okay, I have to do something here first in order to make this better. I'm going to have to turn off access to. That's going to make our engineer freak out, but that's just the way it's going to have to be. And I'm going to bring up phone line 2 in here. Lock you in there. Okay, so now we can take phone calls. 479-1080. David Weiss, tell me the name of your YouTube channel.
The YouTube channel is the initials for Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. It's DITRH. And DITRH. And I have lots of short videos. If you just go there and watch those videos, it's good. Let me just tell you, I made an app because YouTube is hiding all of the good Flat Earth stuff.
Oh, no.
If you go on YouTube and search for Flat Earth, you get all propaganda. They've hidden all of the good stuff. But I have an app. It's called the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. And every day I feed you another video. There's a frequently asked questions page where I guarantee every question that's going to be asked to me tonight is answered in that app. And it's a working model of how the sun and moon and stars work. It'll blow you away.
Hey, David, what did you think of that Netflix documentary? Because in preparation for our interview, I watched the most recent Netflix one, and then I have a follow-up question for you, if you're cool with that.
Yeah, no problem. The Netflix documentary was done as a hit piece.
Okay.
Just for example, the last scene in the movie where they have Jaron from the Jaronism channel doing the laser test, and it wasn't working, and then they're like, hey, raise it up higher, and they raise it up higher, and you can see it. And they goes, that's interesting, right? And then they ended the movie there. And then 2 seconds later, he brought it down low, and they could see it now, which would indicate a flat Earth. Everyone there, Globers and Flat Earthers, walked away and said this was really inconclusive. There was too many factors, and it proved nothing. Okay. But the movie makers made it look like they proved curves. So it was a total hit piece. That's all. So
my other question is that will you subscribe to my YouTube channel so that people think that I'm cool because David Weiss is on my YouTube channel?
I will, but I won't click the notifications bell if that's okay.
All right, David. Let's get out to some phone calls, 479-1080. Let's see what Andres has to say. Andres, you have a question for our guest?
Yeah, I have one gotcha question and one thing that I think he'll like.
Okay.
The thing that I think he'll like is I heard you guys saying that he thinks NASA is a complete sham and has always been a complete sham. And you guys were talking about Disney earlier. I have heard from other people in the past say that there was people from Disney, it might have been Walt Disney himself, sitting on the board of NASA, some sort of a NASA directors. When NASA was first started, there was a lot of Disney involvement with that.
Yep.
Do you know anything about that? Do you want to talk about that? And then I have a gotcha question. Oh, go ahead.
Right. Walt Disney and NASA are working hand in hand. Kubrick was on set with NASA to film the moon landings, and they basically NASA is just a big movie studio. That's it. They've never been to space, and everything they're telling you about satellites, about the moon landings, is complete and total nonsense. Not a theory, proven when you look at it. We went to the moon in the 1960s with the power of a Nintendo, right? But there's zero proof. They've lost the telemetry data. They've lost all of the videos. They've lost all of the data. They don't know how to make the spaceship again, and we can't go back. And now they're telling us that we can't even go through the radiation belts because we don't have any way to protect the astronauts. It's nonsense. If you listen to their smartest and brightest, like Don Pettit, just Google Don Pettit going back to the moon and listen to this guy talking. One of their top astronauts. He sounds like the lowest IQ that you can even think of.
Go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
When you said that just now, did it sound stupid to you? Kind of.
Andres, your gotcha question?
My gotcha question is, I had heard you talked about the Antarctic and how no one has flown across the Antarctic, but I looked into that, and there was one name that I found of a pilot who flew across the Antarctic, and even though there is a no-fly zone down there, I think that's a military-only no-fly zone. Commercial flights go from Australia over to South America or South Africa. What do you say about that?
I could address that. There's no flights that have been documented to fly, from the tip of Santiago, Chile, across Antarctica over to Australia, for example. If you think about a globe, on the bottom of the globe, you have the tip of South America, Santiago, Chile. On the other side, on the bottom, around the same latitude, you have Australia. And if you had a plane, you could either fly around that same latitude or underneath the ball and come up the other side. That would be the shortest route. But in reality, the plane from Santiago goes all the way up to the United States, across over to Dubai, and then all the way back down. So all the way up into the northern hemisphere, this big, crazy U. But then you lay that out on the azimuthal equidistant map, or also known as the flat Earth map, and it's a straight line touching all the same land points.
Thank you for your call, Andres. 479-1080. We're speaking with David Weiss. Be sure to check out his YouTube channel, DITRH. That stands for Deep in the Rabbit Hole on YouTube.
Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole.
Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. And the Flat Earth Podcast is another place to check them out.
Sure.
Okay, let's get to our next phone call. We are heading out to Felton. Rick, you're in the air.
Hi. Yeah, I've been listening to all this stuff here, and I'm not a scientist. I grew up in the Santa Cruz area here. I'm 65 years old, so I got to see a few things change. And one thing that I did notice as far as our atmosphere staying close to planet Earth, it looks pretty round to me. I mean, back when the guy threw a couple of wooden balls off the Leaning Tower of Pisa to talk about gravity, we didn't know that, you know what, gravity actually hooks on to smaller things like air, molecules. And that's what holds the atmosphere to the Earth. I don't care if it's flying 3,000 miles an hour any direction.
So
that's just my education, you know. Isn't that the way it works?
Yeah, well, thanks for the call. So the one of the laws of thermodynamics, to forget if it's the first or second, you can't have high pressure next to low pressure without a physical barrier. So we have this high pressure system. We have the infinite vacuum of space, which is we can't even create a vacuum that's strong on Earth. And you ask somebody, how come the air doesn't get sucked up into space? And their answer is, gravity's holding it down. But you can easily disprove gravity with a straw. You lean over and you take the weaker the weaker vacuum that your lungs create, and you could suck air and water up and away from the Earth without any problem. Just a very weak suction will pull it up and away. That doesn't even compare to what space is. And then the other thing is the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour. So if you had a cubic foot of air sitting on the equator, it's going 1,040 miles per hour. Now if you put it up at 30,000 feet, 50,000 feet, you know, as high as the atmosphere goes, it has to make a bigger circle. So it has to actually spin faster. But we're told that the bumps of the mountains, you know, and the trees and all the stuff on Earth, that's making the atmosphere spin with the Earth. But did you know at 45,000 feet, the winds are outrunning the spin of the Earth? You would think that they would be lagging behind, but no, they're outrunning the spin of the Earth by 300 miles per hour at times. That is impossible.
Thank you for the call, Rick. 479-1080. If you have any gotcha questions you want to try to nail down David, he's game. He's ready to take you on. Give us a call, 479-1080. We head out to the next call. Jack, you have any questions before we move on?
Oh, I mean, I've just kind of taken it in, David. I mean, I guess, you know, part of my thought is that you can have all this information in your brain, but what does it matter? And I don't mean that in a condescending way, but if you could tell me why it matters to you, I would love to hear why.
So here's what happens is you got your gotcha questions, and each one of them gets slammed to the ground, and you get frustrated. You throw your hands up and go, why the lie? Why would they do this? Somebody would talk, but why the lie? There's no difference it makes if the Earth is flat or the Earth is round. The shape doesn't matter. I still have to go to work tomorrow, okay? I had the same thing. I'd like to address that question later on in the show, but if you want me to do it now, I will.
Yeah, if you could do it now, David, I would really appreciate it, just because, to me, you know, you could throw out all the numbers and all the data points that you want to, but I think what's most important to people in a lot of ways is narrative, and I want to know, for you, why is it important to be able to do this? What's the thing that makes David Weiss say this is important for people to know?
Yeah, so I was looking for a quote that I had in my presentation. You know what, let me just pull this up for 1 second. You know, if the heliocentric model wants you to think that you're an insignificant speck in the middle of nowhere where nothing exploded, it created everything, then lightning struck, created an amoeba, it grew into a fish that mutated legs, crawled out of the water, found another fish that happened to have legs, had a baby, it was a monkey, and then the monkey had a deformed baby that was a human. That's kind of, in a nutshell.
Not really, David, but I'll buy it on that.
Well,
okay.
I'm jumping in huge jumps here.
Yeah, but pretty big ones.
Yeah, so it wants you to believe that that you're nothing and you were created from nothing, and we live in this world where an asteroid can just hit us at any time and wipe us out, and there's limited resources. What if there's more land? What if there's free energy everywhere? What if we went to Antarctica and found out the truth of this world? I'm going to read you a short quote by Edward Henry, who wrote a fantastic book called The Greatest Lie Ever Told. It says, if people understood the Earth is stationary and flat, they would understand that they live in a unique creation of a creator. They would want to find out who created them and why. They would conclude that there is a God. They would come to the understanding that God rules from the heaven above. They would rebel against tyrannical government by loving one another according to God's commandments and simple common sense. They would come to understand that they have God-given rights to life, liberty, and property. The tyrannical governments of the world would collapse. The reason they lie about it is control, because if you knew the truth, you would no longer pay to the mind control. Government is control, mind is government, control the mind.
Okay, let's get out to our next phone call. And it is, what am I doing? It is Joe calling from New York. You're in the air.
Yeah, back in 2017, we had this thing called the solar eclipse over the United States. It went from approximately Oregon to South Carolina or something, right? And yeah. I know the moon is 2,000 miles in diameter or so, but the shadow, they said it's only 70 miles wide. What's the story on that?
Yeah, so that, if the moon is 2,000 miles wide and you have an infinite light source, the sun, far away, that shadow can never be smaller than the moon. It can only be bigger, possibly the same size, right? But the shadow on the Earth was only 70 miles wide. That makes absolutely no sense in the helio-nonsensical model. If you also look, if you look up all of the paths of the solar eclipses all over the world, there's these little like curved lines, one here, one there. They go in all different directions. But if you chart them out on a flat Earth map, they make perfect circles. They make circles around the center, which is the north, on the flat map. Makes a lot more sense on the flat Earth. I say eclipses prove the Earth is flat.
Wow. All right. There you go, Joe. Hope that answers your question. 479-1080. Let's see who's up next. We're going to head out to Sacramento and pick up Caprice. You're in the air, Caprice. Thank you for your call.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I was wondering, doesn't circumnavigation prove it's a globe, or can't we go across Antarctica?
That is my favorite question. My favorite question of all. Thank you for asking. Okay, so the Earth is not a disk in space. Billions with a B have circumnavigated the world going east or west, which are clockwise and counterclockwise circles around the center of the Earth. And the center is the North Pole, okay, on our flat world. You can also go up over the North Pole to the other side, but nobody has gone south and come up the other side ever, and that's because the Earth is flat. On a ball Earth and a flat Earth, east and west are circles around the center. On a ball, it's that center of the axial rotation. On the flat Earth, it's just the magnetic center north. East and west are circles, so you can go from California to Japan all the way around and come back, or you can go the other way and come back. Nobody can go south and come all the way up and around. There's a short video on my channel called Circumnavigation for Dummies on the DITRH channel. 4 minutes, and you'll understand how circumnavigation works. If the Earth was a ball, there would have been people traveling in planes or whatever south, but it's never been done. It's only been faked and exposed.
Thank you for the call, Caprice. 479-1080 is the number. 831 is the area code. We head out to Burlington, and we pick up, let me see if I can do this. John, you're in the air.
Hi, guys. Good evening. So 4 years ago, I'm sitting there, I'm looking through Facebook, and I'm seeing all these people say the Earth is flat, and I'm like, these guys are crazy. What the hell's going on? And then I'm scrolling through YouTube, and I see David Weiss debates a guy named Dave Fessler on the Earth is flat or is a ball, and Jim Fencer. And at the end of this presentation, I realized that David Weiss killed him. And so the next day I looked into flat Earth clues and 200 proofs that the Earth is not a spinning globe. And within a day, I realized that we were lied to. And I know it sounds like pretty crazy and naive that you could believe something within a day. But the fact is, there is no curvature. The Earth is supposedly curving at 8 inches per mile squared. So after 1 mile, it's 8 inches. After 3 miles, it's 6 feet. After 100 miles, it's 660 feet. It's ridiculous that we believe these things. And we can see cities with these high-powered cameras that are called Nikon P900s and Nikon P1000s. And they showed a guy named Josh Nowicki look across this lake, and he saw the Chicago city line from 60 miles away. Now, the city should have been disappeared, like not even there because of the curvature of the Earth. But what happened? The news person said, now, ordinarily you wouldn't see something like that because what you're seeing is a mirage. Now, if you're telling me that you're seeing a slightly looming, non-standard refracted projection of a city behind a reified edge of a sphere based on an R value that is presupposed, then I suggest that you are probably brainwashed because I'm looking at a city and you're looking at what they're telling you they're seeing.
Thank you for the call. That was John from Burlington. David, do you have any comments?
John, you're awesome. You nailed it. And my saying is our optics have outgrown their lives. So consumer optics have proven, have taken our vision farther than their lives can.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
One of the things you kind of learn about working in radio is that when you have too many people agreeing with you all the time, it can sometimes be a bad thing because you can kind of get caught up in the momentum of that, if that makes sense. I'm just curious if you ever feel like, I'm surrounded by people who agree with me. I'm surrounded by people who are very frustrated. I'm surrounded by people who read this information. Do you ever kind of just stop and kind of reflect on that? I have to do that often, right? Reflect, because I get emails, Jack, we love you, you're the best ever. I really have to reflect on that.
Jack, let me answer it. Let me answer that.
Yeah.
When we go to these conferences and we have these hangouts, these shows online, it's 99% flat earthers in there, and I say that we're preaching to the choir there because we're all listening to each other, preaching the same thing.
Right.
But we are looking for proofs that the Earth is a ball. We're looking for any proof, and there's none. We keep finding more and more flat Earth proofs. Haven't found a single globe Earth proof. There's a $10,000 reward out there for one globe proof, and no one's been able to claim it. But that's not what I do. I go on shows where people aren't flat earthers. You guys are actually flat friendly. I go on shows where they absolutely hate flat Earth. They want to kill me. They want to tell me not to breathe and stop eating paint chips.
Oh no.
So your thought there that I'm looking for confirmation bias is absolutely incorrect. I am struggling.
No, that's not really my thought. My thought, David, is more so like, how do you deal with the, because I wouldn't accuse you because I don't know your intent. My thought is, how do you process that when you have a bunch of people just agreeing with you? How do you move through that?
You know what? We don't agree. There's a lot of flat earthers. We talk about, like, when we're looking at the stars, what are we really seeing? There's the dome versus infinite plane. There's a lot of discussion. We're going back and forth. There's people that hate the 80 map. There's people that think that the sun goes in a straight line. There's people that think different maps. It doesn't matter. We all know that it's not a spinning ball because that's been proven. There is no curvature. We can see too far. That's all you need to know. There's a playlist on my channel or in the app, the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. Look for boats over the horizon. There's hundreds of videos of tests that we've done that things should be thousands of feet below the curve, and they're not. They're right there, and we can see them. But when you zoom out, they disappear. But you zoom back in, they're there again. And that's not because they're behind a curve. It's because they're beyond the angular resolution limits of your eyes. People, you're not taught about that in school. You're not taught about the inverse square law of light. You're not taught about the curvature formula, 8 inches per mile squared. Simple formula. You were never taught that in school. They don't teach you these things. Go ahead.
We're speaking with David Weiss. David, we have about a minute left, and we have a town hall meeting that's coming up at 6 p.m., which is really going to throw a wrench in our scheduled 6 o'clock hour. So I think we're going to have to move this interview to another day because this has been fun, man. We could do this for hours.
Can I give everybody a challenge until the next time we come back on?
Absolutely.
Get the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. Every day you'll be fed one new video. Watch that video every day. Short ones during the week, long ones on the weekend. And for 2 weeks, you'll come on here and you'll be on my side. You all will. Nobody can do that and remain a ball earther because it's information that you were never taught.
All right, David. I'm going to take you up on that challenge, man. The Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac app, the Flat Earth podcast. Go to YouTube, DITRH, to find out more about our guest, David Weiss.
All right.
All right, David.
Thanks, guys.
We'll have you back on. We just had an emergency come up, an emergency broadcast, and we got to do this to serve the public. So we'll have you on again, David. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
That was David Weiss. Again, we want to thank him for joining us here. Told you, Jack. Told you, dude. That is fun stuff, man. I love it. Thank you, David, again for joining us. Be sure.